you. Oh, library.
Where y'all from? Missouri. Oh, nice. I used to work in Missouri. At Ozark National Scenic Riverways.
Oh, yeah.
I was a park ranger there.
I teach at UCM.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's where I got my bachelor's.
Really?
Yeah, I'm from Warsaw.
Yeah, we both work here. Where'd you get your degree?
Again, I know, don't go down too far. Don't go down too far. Because we're gonna go. I'm gonna get y'all the hot spots. I promise you. But we're gonna take off right behind me in just a few moments. And I can't believe I'm already putting y'all in the shade here. We're deep in November and we're looking for shade. Should have been here in the sun. Well, guys, welcome to St. Louis Cemetery number 1. It's the oldest active cemetery in New Orleans. It's not our first cemetery. Our first cemetery was St. Peter's Cemetery. It was inside the French Quarter. It was a conventional in-ground burials, and that was our primary burial site from 1724 to 1788. In 1788, we had a fire that ripped through the city. Also had a major cholera outbreak. As a result, when we went to go bury our loved ones in the St. Peter's Cemetery, we started to uncover previously buried bodies. So the Archdiocese of New Orleans, the Catholic Archdiocese, got together with the Cabildo, which is the Spanish government, to establish a new cemetery. And St. Louis is established in 1789. Now, once we came back here, things had to change a little bit. You got to realize, Louisiana, or especially New Orleans, culturally, we do things a lot different than a lot of other places. But also, geologically, we do things different. Most places you find your rivers at your lowest point, right? Not in coastal Louisiana. Our bayous and our rivers are the highest points. We're on the descending side of the natural levee of the Mississippi River. So, we're at a 3-foot elevation here. You dig here, you go right into the water table. Not conducive for in-ground burials. So we had to come above ground. But above ground burials aren't anything new. At the same time, they were burying above ground, not because the ground was in Spain, not because the ground was too soft, but because the ground was too hard. It was rocky. But across Europe, Asia, Africa, and in the United States, we all buried above ground. The difference is we use these tombs generationally. We use them over and over again. So how does that work? Y'all are standing in front of these wall vaults, also called oven vaults. They resemble a baker's oven, right? They all would have had marble tablets on them, and we'll discuss what happened to the marble tablets a little later. So, let's say Uncle Joe passes away. We bring Uncle Joe into the cemetery. We bring him to his crypt. We remove the marble tablet. We remove the bricks from behind the marble tablet. We slide Uncle Joe in, coffin and all. We put the bricks up. We put the tablet back on. And he's good in there for a year and a day. What I mean by he's good in there a year and a day is we can't re-enter and reuse that crypt for a full year and a day. Any thoughts on why? Excuse me? That's right. You remember Uncle Joe? He was sweet, right? But he didn't smell that good when he was little. 6 months in one of these, he's not going to smell anything. So, we leave him in there for a year and a day. After a year and a day, let's say Aunt Rose passes away. We bring Aunt Rose into the cemetery. We remove the marble tablet again. We remove the bricks. But this time, we go inside the crypt. We remove any of the remains of the coffin, the hardware, the wood. We scrap that. Anything that's left from Uncle Joe, primarily the soft tissue breaks down pretty quick. But the bones that are left behind, we pouch those. And what I mean by pouching them, if there are bones left, we put them in a little burlap sack, set them to the side, but they stay within the crypt. You sweep the rest of the crypt clean to the back of it, where there's a slot called a caboose. Those remains go in there. You slot Aunt Rose in, you put the bricks on, you put the tablet on, and you're good again for a year and a day. Y'all got that? Now to what ifs, right? What if Aunt Rose dies within 6 months of Uncle Joe? Yeah. What do? You simply borrow, rent, or lease someone else's tomb, and when her year and a day's up, you go retrieve her and reunite her remains with Uncle Joe. One more what if. And these things happen. What if while we're waiting for Aunt Rose's year in the day to run out, Aunt Betty dies. Well, you don't want to chase too many bodies around the cemetery. So what we do is Aunt Betty jumps into Aunt Rose's grave, literally, and we'll go get Aunt Rose down the road. You can imagine there's a lot of people buried in the wrong spot in the cemetery. And I've got a real world example of that for you guys a little bit later as well. So 1853 rolls around. 1 in 10 people die of yellow fever that summer. We're talking 8,000 people died between July and October of 1853. Tremendous death. These wall vaults would have filled up very quickly, but that's where these family tombs would have come into place. We have one marble tablet, but we have 2 crypts behind this tomb. You can see some of the taller ones that have 3, and in the cemetery you may see some that have as many as 6. So that eliminated the chasing of bodies around to a certain degree. Because yellow jack, as yellow fever was known as, when it hit a family, it usually took out multiple family members.
So they don't cremate anybody to put and just put the ashes in.
Say that again?
They don't cremate anybody to put the ashes in.
Cremation wasn't allowed in the Catholic Church until 1963. So today you can put the ashes in, and you can get a waiver on the year and a day for obvious reasons. But yeah, it wasn't allowed to in 1963, but the fact of the matter is, if you were here in the summer, when the temperatures in the upper 90s, the temperatures in these crypts get to about 250. Wow. So it's a slow roast. All right. Just saying, you know. All right. Any other questions? Good question. Well, guys, I'm done. Y'all have a great day.
So the things on the wall is mysterious. Still like alive?
Excuse me?
Like the tablets on the wall, is it still alive?
No. We're going to talk about what happened to the tombs that don't have marbles. They all would have had marble tablets on them.
I see, because the tablet is still stick here.
Yeah, those are survived. We'll talk about that.
It's not the person.
No, it's nothing about if they're active or not. All these are active. Obviously, the bottom row is not active because things sunk.
Oh,
But yeah, but outside of that, these are still active, can be used.
I see.
Yep. All right, guys. Then we're gonna cover that in a little more detail. All right, guys, y'all ready? We're not here to talk about the mechanics. We're here to talk about the people. Some of y'all can walk through those 2 tombs. Some can follow me here, and we'll get started. Watch your step. That little step gets folks. Guys, watch your step right here. That little step jumps up and gets folks. And we're going to talk about the 2 tombs I'm standing between. Please watch your step right there. And come on in. We got more room this way. We'll talk about these 2 on either side. All right. So, well, let's slide in. Everybody take a half a step or a step that way and get everybody in here. There you go. All right, we got everybody. Perfect. So the tomb to the right of me is the Moriel tomb, family tomb. Ernest F. Moriel was the first mayor of New Orleans of African descent. He did a lot for civil liberties prior to becoming mayor. Once he was mayor, he was a pretty good mayor. He brought the World's Fair here in 1984, a section of town which is still developing today as a result of that World's Fair, too. But the most important thing I want y'all to take from this is the Moriel tomb is a family of African descent that owns this tomb. To the left of me is Christopher Galapion's tomb. Christopher Galapion is of European descent. So right off the bat, what we're seeing here is the progressive nature of New Orleans in the early days, where we have people of African descent being buried next to people of European descent in the early 1800s, late 1700s. Something, sadly to say, this country doesn't see in any regularity until the 1960s and 70s. Now, Christopher Galapion, not a whole lot to write home about. It's who he marries. He marries a free woman of color. So we had in the 1820s, and we have interracial marriages going on. Still not a big deal. It's who this woman was that he married. This is the tomb for the voodoo priestess Marie Laveau. Y'all familiar with Marie Laveau a little bit? I'm going to step over here. This is a great time for y'all to get pics. She's buried in the middle tomb. And to give y'all perspective, and after you get pics, if you want to rotate out a little bit, we got a shade here and let other folks get pics as well. So there's 85 people buried in this one tomb. To give you an idea, we have 700 tombs in the cemetery and over 100,000 residents.
Wow.
Roughly works the math. If you work the math, it's approximately 142 per tomb. So that gives you a little perspective. So let's talk Marie Laveau for a few moments. The best description I can give you of Marie Laveau comes from her New York Times obituary, which said she was a woman of great beauty, intellect, with charisma. Religious, charitable, and gifted in herbal medicines. She was also, during the yellow fever epidemics, people would stay away from people with yellow fever. It was terrible. She did a lot of bedside nursing during those times, so she was a pretty courageous lady as well. So, voodoo. Voodoo comes in from West Africa, comes in through the Caribbean, and lands in New Orleans. Once it arrives in New Orleans, the practice of voodoo has to change. Why do you think it has to change? Did y'all not know this was a Q&A program? Y'all didn't study, huh? No, the reason it had to change is that to live in New Orleans, to live in Louisiana during the colonial period until late 1803, you had to be Catholic. It was that simple. You were the king's religion. So, still today, on a voodoo altar in New Orleans, you'll find a statue of the Blessed Mother prominently placed, along with a crucifix and a statue of St. Joseph. They fused the two religions together. And y'all see the X's on the tomb, all right? Yep, we're going there. It's hard to pass that one. So the X's on the tomb. The X's on the tomb represent vandalism, to be perfectly honest. But let's go through. I got this from the internet, so this scenario should be correct, right? You come here and you knock on the tomb 3 times. I get that. My grandmother used to knock on my mother's tomb and say a few prayers. When I visit my dad's tomb, I run my hand across it. I think we all do those kind of things. It gives a physical connection, right? So you knock on the tomb 3 times. You turn around 3 times one way, 3 times the opposite way. Claim out loud what you want her intercession to be, whether it's goodwill, maybe health reasons, romance, or what have you. You leave an upfront offering, and you're supposed to put 3 X's. If it comes true, you come back, you go through the same scenario, same ceremony, but this time you leave a greater offering and you circle the X's. I've been coming here since I've been a little bit kid. I'm talking young. I didn't recall the X's. And recently, working with some of my colleagues, we found some evidence and collaborative evidence that showed that there wouldn't have been X's on it. The X's started in the late 60s, really early 70s. What you would have seen was a simple cross. Cross representing 2 things. One, most sacred of all symbols in Christianity, the death of Christ. But also, in the voodoo religion, where the 2 lines intersect, is where the material and spiritual worlds come together. She was in the Bible. She did voodoo on Saturdays, and Sunday she was at Mass. She received all the sacraments. Any questions? All right. Anybody here have seen or watches the Queen's Gambit? The show? Queen's Gambit is a parody off of Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy brings the first international championship in the United States through chess. He was a prodigy at the age of 9. By the age of 23, after defeating all the masters across Europe, he retired. He's going to be buried. We're not going to stop there. We're going to be walking by, but he's going to be buried right off to the right after we come by. You'll see it's a tall tomb with the Morphy name. All right, let's go dig a little deep into the cemetery.
We're digging? We're digging?
Say that. Paul Morphy's right here on the right, guys. It's a shame. They used to have, I remember, a large rook and a knight in their statue, and that was stolen.
Well, that explained the pieces that I noticed that when we were earlier.
After he retired, he lived, well, he grew up, I think, in what is now the restaurant, running the restaurant. Yeah, that's on Road. It's one of the Brent's family owns Amanda's Palace, one of the top restaurant families in the world.
Okay. Yeah, no, when we were standing there, I figured it was kind of.
How many of these tombs get? I know that now you have security and stuff. Have the tombs been vandalized over the years? I assume.
Yeah, that tomb has been. That's one reason why the cemetery is closed, is locked, because they're trying to protect that tomb.
Marie LeBeau's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
When somebody came in and painted latex paint in pink, Pepto-Bismol paint.
Oh.
And it doesn't, latex paint does not go with lime-based plaster like you find here. It's all real lime-based.
Oh.
All right, we got everybody? Is everybody?
Is it the family's responsibility to keep the upkeep?
Excuse me?
Is it the family's responsibility to keep the upkeep?
It is, and we're going to talk about that right when we get our next stop. You're going to steal my thunder.
The boat guy. Just by himself.
All righty, guys. Plenty of room over here. So whose tomb is this? Nicolas Cage's tomb.
We learned that today.
Oh my God.
Y'all all recognize the fact that Nicolas Cage is still living, right?
Yeah.
So what's the only thing buried here?
Air.
Hope. Nothing?
His career.
Oh.
That
You
was
don't
funny.
like that. No, I love Nicolas Cage. He really is a great ambassador for the city, and I like picking on him because of that. He really kind of, just resembles the city. So yeah, he used to come to New Orleans as a kid. His uncle Francis Ford Coppola had a place in the French Quarter, and so he used to come on family visits here. And as his career advanced, he bought an old orphanage in the Garden District from Anne Rice, off of Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
And then he also bought Madame Laurie's haunted mansion in the French Quarter. Did I say that he bought the orphanage in the French Quarter?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was in the Garden District. As soon as I said that, my bad. So I'm getting started in the morning. But when he got into financial issues, he lost those
This
trusts.
is Richard Jr.
But state law says you cannot take one's burial site away, so he maintained ownership of this when he was in those financial crisis. Now, as we got a little deeper into the cemetery, you can see around you, a lot of these tombs are in different states of disrepair. The Archdiocese owns, operates, and maintains the cemetery, but the individual tombs are privately owned. And as the families die out or move on, they start to break down, and this lime-based plaster that we primarily use here, it's old world stuff. It takes a lot of maintenance to keep them going. So up until just 3 years ago, you could do no maintenance, on these tombs. I should say the Archdiocese, because they would be trespassing. But fortunately, 3 years ago, they passed a law that stated that after 50 years of no activity, they consider the tomb abandoned and orphaned, and now we can do the restoration because of the historical significance of the cemetery. So we're behind the 8 ball on this, right? So it takes a lot of money. Part of the proceeds that y'all paid to come in today come right back in for that restoration effort. And for that, thank y'all very much. And we're starting to see tombs pop up left and right. And you'll see this one that's in terrible shape. At my next stop, I'll point one out that was actually in worse shape than this. So they do have an opportunity to get these things back up and running.
If they're abandoned, then can somebody else take ownership and then start burying new people there, or are they kind of set aside?
It's a gray area because basically to get title, a clear title, because this property is still owned by someone.
Okay.
And you may have to go back to Europe to get a clear title. It's very difficult. So they could technically sell it again, but they're not doing it.
Okay. So these are kind of stuck in memoriam for the.
For the duration.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that's right. So you'll everything from one. Stick this thing. It comes from, I think, it's National Treasure. You'll also see the perpetual care plaques. The way that works is this family went to the archdiocese, had the tomb restored to the archdiocese specifications. You pay an extra sum of money. It goes into a trust fund, and then that the archdiocese will then take care of this tomb in perpetuity. So the combination will hopefully perpetuate this cemetery in the coming centuries. The marble tablets that we talked about at the first stop. In our climate here, the marble tablets, I'm seeing y'all, I'm going to come over here. I'm seeing everybody doing this. I'm sorry. Let me get the shade to y'all. It's kind of like, what is it, Clint Eastwood, right? You know, get the sun behind your back. So the marble tablets, they last in this climate for about 140 years. But the climate here is not conducive to marble, and because marble is porous, it's fractured, it allows microbes to get in there. We get a little bit of freezing weather in here, and you get a little bit of frost wedging that occurs as well. So they, unfortunately, we lose a lot of those tablets. So some of these are original tablets. Some of those tablets are have been replaced in marble. Then others have gone back with granite. Granite will last forever. So this question is, do you trust by replacing your family tablet in marble that the next 2 generations down the road will put your name in? Right? If you don't trust them, you go in granite. I got a great little story up ahead. I normally can't stop there, but if we could stay tight, not that we haven't, but if we could stay tight from this part on, I can pick up this story and a couple others. Y'all promise me on that? This is a story you cannot make up. I promise. It's a quick one. It's a quick one. So we're talking about, there's a little bit of shade over here as well. I can't believe I'm pointing shade out to you guys. So Bartholomew Lafon. Bartholomew Lafon had 4 careers. His first career was, he was a civil engineer, land surveyor. He made maps for a living. Now, so that's his first career. His second career, when Andrew Jackson came to New Orleans for the Battle of New Orleans, what does every commander need? He needs a map. He needs to know the lay of the land. Lafon is hired as a logistics officer under Andrew Jackson. Well, while at the Battle of New Orleans, who does he befriend? None other than Jean and Pierre Lafitte, the notorious Barratarian pirates. He sees what they're making on smuggling and pirating. He owns 2 vessels. Just settles from the Battle of New Orleans, and he becomes a pirate and a smuggler. That's his third. And his fourth career is this. He dies in 1820 of yellow fever. He has 4 children, 2 with his wife, 2 with his mixed race mistress. All 4 of them get an equal share of his estate. Now, Tom Lafon, who's buried in St. Louis Cemetery No. 3, takes part of his money, buys a building in the French Quarter, and donates it to Mother Henrietta de Lisle for an orphanage. Mother Henrietta de Lisle is buried in St. Louis No. 2, and she's up for being she's up for canonization to be a saint in the Catholic Church. And if you're not familiar with that, that is a big, big deal. Amongst other things, she started the first order of nuns of African descent, called the Sisters of the Holy Family. I know it's a little stretch, but I call that his 4th career. He used his money. So he went from a land surveyor, civil engineer, to a logistics officer, to a pirate, to the benefactor of a religious order. You can't make that up. Come on in. Let's get a little deeper. Man, we'd go, we'd get off of work, we'd go caving, we'd go.
Yeah.
Great place. All right. A little shade over here, guys. Oh, I mentioned that by Nick Cage's tomb. I talked about that tomb that was kind of really beat up. If you look at this tomb here, they're in the process of finishing the restoration on this. That tomb was in a lot worse shape. In fact, we thought it was going to collapse at one point. And we got it back up and running. So, we're amongst these larger tombs right now. These tombs are called Benevolent Society tombs. A benevolent society is a group of people of a like kind. They may be of a similar nationality, maybe came over on a boat together. It might be a similar occupation, or even a religious order. These people would pool their money together, very much like an insurance company. Pay so much a month, so much a year, and you have a place to bury your loved ones in a consecrated cemetery. That was more reasonable than even a wall. So over here you have the Portuguese Benevolent Society tomb. It's known for taking in the residents of St. Peter's Cemetery that we talked about at the first stop. They got most of the residents in this tomb. And I say most of them, we still uncover bodies in that section in front. There's a hotel on it now, so I don't know where y'all staying tonight. But if y'all in that section of the quarter, good luck to you.
Which hotel?
I don't know what hotel. I think that's a good question. It's between St. Peter Street and Toulouse, Burgundy and Rampart. Go on those blocks.
Hold on, check this.
Okay, I think you. It might have been the cemetery now. Over here we have the Italian Benevolent Society tomb. The Italian Benevolent Society tomb is probably the most elaborate tomb in the 13 cemeteries that the Archdiocese oversees. It was built in 1856 for $40,000, Baroque style architecture, marble imported from Italy. And you can see the what looks like chest of drawers. Those are the crypts that go around the tomb. It can handle 24 burials at a single time. Now there's 13 Catholic cemeteries, but there's 43 above ground municipal cemeteries, of which many of those are historic in their own right. Now behind me, you can see this Philippe Guénot tomb. Philippe Guénot is my third great grandfather. This is not, I want to make sure y'all understand, this is not the Richie Leonard genealogy program, I promise you, but you'll see where this story goes. So, Philippe, we'll start here. If you look down at these marble tablets, whose name is missing from those marble tablets? Any thoughts? Philippe. You got it. Philippe's name's missing. We looked for Philippe for about 30 years and couldn't find him. Literally about 6 months ago, we finally found him. We found him buried in drawer number 14 in the Italian tomb behind you. So our first question is, can we go get him and bring him home? Because we almost put his name up there when we placed his tablet. The Italian tomb is sealed. No one else in, no one else out. They're trying to maintain the integrity of the marble. Good enough. We know where he's at. Y'all on my dance floor right now, right? Second question is, why is he in there? Well, they're probably doing work on this tomb when he died, and they put him in there temporarily. And they never went back and got him. Y'all remember Aunt Rose? We would have never went and got her. He bankrolled this big old tomb. His name's across here, and we didn't go get him. Third question, what's a Frenchman doing in an Italian tomb? If you look at my second great grandmother, Estelle Bertoli, it's got a vowel on the end, it's probably Italian, and she was from Guinevere. So yeah, she probably had a connection, or her father had a connection to put him in there temporarily. Which brings me to this, and I know these people here, so it's easy for me to talk about, but this tomb is nothing special. But it is representative of what a lot of these tombs in the cemetery are made up of. Made up of a variety of people. Our culture in New Orleans still is growing.